and welcome to Talk a Good Game, and it's a review of today's game, which was West Ham 1, Everton 1. This time last year, Lukaku popped up in the 93rd minute to make it 2-1, but it didn't happen this year. I am Gio, also known as Red Hammer from hammerchat.com, and I'm joined by two other forum members. Charlie, good evening, Charlie, you okay?
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. And I've also got Gonzo with me. Good evening, Gonzo.
Good evening, sir.
And just before we kick off, before I forget, hit that subscribe button. And also, those two fine-looking chaps have been on West Ham Fan TV tonight on their fan cam, so do pop over to their channel afterwards if you haven't already been there. Their videos are also on the forum at hammerchat.com. Just click forum. Right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. Early on, we went close with Moses, and then Lanzini. What a goal! Chris, did you get a good view of that?
Beautiful. Yeah, I was up the other end of the stadium though, but I was sort of right behind the goal in the Trevor Brooking, and it had such a lovely shape in it. I would just sort of assume that it was Payet that had scored it because it looked like he's sort of a goal. So it was only actually when it came up on the screen I found out it was Lanzini, but fantastic strike. Charlie,
best goal this season so far for West Ham?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's better than the Payet goal from last year. You could argue about the Crystal Palace Payet goal, but last month. You could argue about the Crystal Palace one, but it was so good. I was shocked it went in, to be honest.
When I seen the ball coming out to him, I was sitting thinking, smash it, just absolutely smash it. And then he took a touch, and I thought, no. And then he just, perfection. I could not believe he'd actually scored that. Now the bit that I think could have been a game. I think it was a game changer actually. And I think there should be a big point made about this, and there's a stupid rule by the FA. They've got this. Chris, what did you see of James McCarthy's tackle on Payet?
Do you know what? It was hard. It was hard to tell. I had a lovely big overview of the game, but I was quite high up in the stand. What I did see was the referee seemed to allow systematic fouling of our players and was really reluctant to pull a card out. I thought any number of their players should have been booked for fouls on Payet, for fouls on Moses. I mean, it was so many, it was hard to pick one out from the other, but certainly the reaction of the crowd, which you can't say everything from that, certainly suggests that maybe he shouldn't have been on the pitch.
Yeah, well, this is where I could have an advantage, I suppose, being sitting at home in my armchair watching it. But Charlie, what was your view on that tackle?
Sorry, you cut out when you said it. Which one was it?
The McCarthy tackle on Payet, the one that injured him, essentially.
Yeah, I didn't get a great view of it either. I agree with Chris to an extent about just the referee seemed reluctant to bring out the cards, which I think was probably something to do with what you said on the preview show about him dishing out cards like there's no. He seems very, very lucky. A few challenges where you'd say people were lucky, maybe not to stay on the pitch, but there were quite a few bad challenges in that match. I remember one right in front of me on, I think it was Moses who was breaking through, and it was just, I don't know, they came out to nullify our attack by taking away their ankles, and they did just that with Dimitri Payet and Enner Valencia later on. So.
One thing I will say to Everton though is they've always done their homework on the referee. It was only his 4th ever Premier League game, it's the 3rd this season. The fact to me that his first ever game in charge of Premier League was August last year, and he's had to wait exactly a calendar year until the second one, says to me that they obviously thought he wasn't quite ready for the Premier League. I did an article on hammerchat.com during the week for it, and I went through all his previous newspaper cuttings from managers that's had him, and even Eddie Howe of Bournemouth criticised him, and he's actually a manager that's quite level-headed, and when he calls a referee, I thought, well, this is a bit iffy. That tackle, though, from McCarthy, I thought was disgusting. It was a horrible, horrible tackle. We need to see the highlights later. It's shocking. He wraps his leg around him. Payet's leg around him is so bad. He goes in with his left foot. He's from behind as well, right through his leg. He takes his right leg round. He's no intention of getting the ball. One intention is that's to take Payet out of the game. And look, he did. My stream, when Payet went off, my stream was on McCarthy. And it almost looked like he was away to wink to his teammate, but he was certainly grinning at a teammate while Payet was going off, and then the stream cut away. I was actually quite disappointed because I would have liked to see that stream stay on McCarthy's face as Payet was limping off. But this is where I'm going to talk about two rules tonight. This is the first one. The referee booked him, so McCarthy cannot be punished by the FA. Chris, do you think that's a silly rule, or just it is what it is?
Well, yeah, because it's relying on the referee's judgment of that day. So the referee may think, okay, you know, I've seen that and I've punished it. But you've just listened to us now. Myself and Charlie were both at the game. We've not seen a replay of it at all. So we don't know. So whilst we've got perhaps a better feel for the vibe of the game and that sort of thing, and we can watch people off the ball, we've not seen the replay of it. We've not seen him go through it. So if that's the case live, then what's to say a referee can't look back at it and think, do you know what? I thought it was a yellow, but actually in retrospect, seeing it from all angles, it is a red. It's the rule is too restrictive.
Yeah, I like to think there's a lot of people going to agree with me and say it's red. Let us know if you think I'm being ridiculous. You can come on to hammerschat.com, let us know, or comment below. Maybe you agree with me, but I thought it was a straight red anyway, and I think that would have changed the game. Needless to say, just before half-time, 7-7, Lukaku. It looks like he was onside to me, actually, going by the stream. It looks like his arm was offside. I think we've just got unlucky the last few games, because they're saying that Fabregas's one was given as offside and it was touch and go as well, so karma, swings and roundabouts and all that, you win some, you lose some. Then Payet went off, then Valencia came on and went off injured. Bilic says that he thinks they'll both be okay for Spurs. I was quite concerned about Valencia's challenge actually, because it looks like a fair tackle to me, but he went off in a stretcher. Chris, do you think that injuries killed our momentum, if we had any? Do you not think that just sucker punched our whole game plan and just killed our threat going forward, those two injuries and the changes, I suppose?
Well, the Payet one was the one. I mean, what I was expecting Valencia came on. I expected Valencia to come on for Carroll. Maybe you'll ask about that later. I think the moment Valencia's put out onto the wing, it almost doesn't matter if Valencia comes off. We've got Antonio to come on or something like that. The Payet one was key because what we had at the time when Payet was on, we had Payet and Lanzini, two skillful players. So what happened was they had to keep one eye on one and then another eye on the other. As soon as Payet went off, they were able to double up on Lanzini. And there were we had a bit of momentum in the second half, but there were times when Lanzini would have the ball. He was so heavily marked. He wanted to do something creative, but they were really sitting back quite defensively, and he really had nowhere to go. So yeah, I think it did change the game.
Charlie, do you agree with that? In the second half, to me, it felt like Everton wanted it more. Is that due to our injuries and the subs we were forced to make? Probably, because Martinez was there able to pick his subs that he wanted to do, make them pinpoint Lennon, bringing on Lennon, Morales. What do you think about that, Charlie? What do you think about the second half?
A game of two teams just sitting back and waiting for the other to attack. And I think our whole game plan was sitting. It wasn't even like an away performance. It was like we were sitting deep and waiting for their weaknesses to be exposed. And one of the obvious ones I noticed, and I think this was probably what Slaven Bilic was trying to get at, was the fact all playing centre backs all the time. They just go wonders. Like all times where I can't remember his name, but number 25, and then John Stones, like one of them would just go walkies, just walk up the middle of the pitch, and then we were looking to break on those times. But again, Farrell or Jelavic towards the end of the game, completely and utterly isolated. And we've seen it with Sacco. We've seen Sacco get isolated, but he's got that work rate, which means he's always doing something, even when he is isolated. The problem is Andy Carroll and Nikita Jelavic, I'm not saying they don't work as hard as him, but they certainly don't have that causes many problems. Whether Everton wanted it more or not is another question. I think it's a bit, I don't know. It was clearly a game where neither team were willing to risk too much to get it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, there wasn't much saves for either keeper in the second half. I'm going to talk about the second rule. We'll see what you think, Charlie. Right at the end of the first half, and the whistle blew for half-time. In my view, Andy Carroll was practically through a goal. Now, according to my stream, there was still 3 seconds to go until injury time was played. I know you always say, hang on, 3 seconds, so what? However, in that 3 seconds, that takes him into the box, probably, into a shooting position, because that was when the ball went long with the top, and Carroll was up against his man, both going for the goal, and Bilic was fuming after it. At the very end of the game, for full time, we got a free kick, everyone ran forward, Noble put it down, went to take it, he blew for full time. Now, I agree with that, because the time was up at the full time, once minimum time had been played, but Bilic, that's the first time I've seen Bilic absolutely raging. He tore into the fourth official after that game. Charlie, what do you make of that rule? Is it time up, or what do you think?
it should, in reality, it should be time up, I guess. But there are multiple occasions you can watch constantly where that's not the case and people get allowed a little on the attack. And it's not the first time it's happened. It's not like this is the first time. I remember a few years ago, Carlton Cole, I can't remember whether he was about to score or did actually put the ball in the net, and the referee blew the whistle for either full time and half time, and then that was it. It was over, and I don't know if we lost or drew. I can't remember, but I remember the goal. And it's difficult because there's no consistency, and that's the problem. Is you have whatever the decision is has to be consistent across all games, and that just doesn't exist right now. It should be time up in my opinion, but like you say, there was still a little bit of time to go before the whistle was supposed to have gone anywhere. But like you say with the Lukaku offside thing, these things swings in roundabouts.
Yeah, well, funny, in the article, it was actually Neil Warnock, of all people, that pointed out that this referee is not a footballer. He's never played football at any level, and he's been brought up, and he believes he's a robot referee who plays the letter of the law and does not understand football. And I suppose this is where his example has some sort of depth to it. Now we're going to talk about player performances before we bugger off your screens and leave you in peace. Chris, who's your man of match? We're going to talk about a few players tonight, but I want to know who your man of match was before we move on.
You can take your pick. I mean, we've been quite down on everything at the moment. Let's just say I do think we played well as a bogey team. We got a point against people we traditionally struggle against. Noble nullified Barkley. They have players like Barkley, Delafeu, Lukaku. We're going to go on and do very well against other teams this season, and they will cause other teams problems. And we did very well against them. Moses played well, Noble played well, Reed played well, Tompkins played very well indeed. Jenkins, who I think has been a weak link the last couple of games, he's played well. Lanzini played well. Payet was looking to make things happen. Coyote was winning a bit of the ball, played a little bit better. So they all played well. I know you asked who was good. The only player that didn't really was Andy Carroll, because the lovely style that we're playing now, doesn't suit him. The wingers get down the wings, they want to come in, they want to trick in. There's no high crosses going over. It's not set up for a target man on his own.
Charlie, do you agree with that about Andy Carroll, or do you think he can fit in?
I think he can fit. I think he can fit in, but not as an isolated striker, because I said before the game that we should play Zarate up front with him in some capacity, and I was a bit shocked that he didn't do it because he was completely isolated against Watford, and it sort of happened again. I think he could actually work really well if he had like a Sacco or even a Zarate, as much as I dislike him, like even a Zarate or an Enner Valencia, just someone up front with him to give him a little bit of space, because at the moment he's got the entire half of the pitch to himself, and so he collects the ball and there's nothing to do with it. And he's not someone who's going to turn your defender and run through 15 people. He's not Ronaldinho or Lanzini or anything. So I think he can fit into the team, but clearly right now the tactics are set up in a way which does not suit him at all.
I thought he was poor today. I am a big fan of Carroll. I stuck up for him in the previous show, and I said he should start. I wanted to see him up front with someone else as well, but I was wary of us not dominating the midfield, which we're going to come on to in a second. But today I thought we did change our tactics to suit him. I thought Creswell and Jenkinson got forward a hell of a lot more than they did against Watford. We played the ball a lot wider than we did against Watford, and we were putting some crosses in. They weren't perfect, but Carroll was up against two very good centre defenders in the air. Those centre backs for Everton are no mugs in the air, and Howard was quick off his line on numerous occasions. They knew what to expect with Carroll, and I think they set out to nullify it pretty well. I think we could have got Galloway a lot more though. Moses had him on toast in the first half, I think, and I was quite disappointed we didn't absolutely roast him in the second half and double up on him at all times.
Yeah, sorry, Red, if I just come in just a second there. What you said is absolutely right, and the centre-backs very much did. But the fact is, when you're looking for that one player who's got that one main attribute, which is heading in the air, then a defender can nullify that. And once you take away his heading, he's really not offering anything else at all. And that was a real problem for us. He's not linking the play or anything like that. And yes, there were a couple more crosses coming over. But you're right, you spot on about Howard. I was right in front of me, I was watching it. He was really coming out and commanding his area. And Carroll wasn't winning many headers.
He didn't look up for it today. I don't think he was G'd up as he was against Chelsea, for example. But now we're going to talk about the centre midfield. I was worried Everton were going to dominate us in this area, and I think they did. I am one player that's not been criticised this season. Now I'm going to put my neck on the line here and say Kouyaté has been major off the ball this last couple of games. I thought he was our... I'm not saying he was poor, but I thought he was our poorest player, if that makes sense. I thought he was average today. Well, I thought a lot of them were good. I thought Noble was very good next to him. I thought he's not quite my man of match, Noble, but I thought he was very, very good today. But I'm still seeing people criticise Noble for today's performance. But yet Kouyaté is getting off with it. And I think if someone was if we were playing a game next week and someone was back, I would expect Kouyaté to be the one to drop out. Now, Chris, you're a massive fan of Kouyaté, so I'm going to pick on you for this one. Do you think he's been poor the last few games, or is it just me?
No, he has been poor the last couple of days. The reason I'm a fan of Kouyaté is because he's a tackler, and you need a tackler in the team to allow those other more skillful players to play. When Son comes back, does he come in for Kouyaté? Yeah, well, quite possibly. What I do know is Son, if Payet's fit, Son, Payet, Lanzini will give us control of the middle of the park. And yes, Noble was excellent today. I thought that was his best game this season. And, I call it as it is. And when he's been poor, I said he's been poor today. He was very good. And Kouyaté wasn't quite as good. But you can see that Barkley is a good player. It's the first time I've seen him in the flesh. You can see he's a good player. He's a highlight reel player. And I'll tell you what, you won't see many highlights of him today because they did tie him up, really.
Well, we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time in the preview of the Spurs game, the big Spurs game. We've got international break, but we do have a special episode out next week with someone you might recognise if you watch some television during the day. It's not Jeremy Kyle, don't worry. But before I get the man of match from these guys, remember and hit subscribe and pop onto hammerchat.com. But Gonzo, I think you basically named all 11 players when I asked you for your man of match. You're only allowed to pick one. Man of match, please.
I'm gonna go with Winston Reid.
Charlie, man of match, please.
Tompkins.
Yeah, I'm with Charlie on this one. The two academy boys shone for me today. I think James Tompkins was absolutely phenomenal. Fantastic season for him so far. Anyway, that's been Chris, that's been Charlie, I've been Gio, we've been hammerchat.com. This has been Talk a Good Game. Hit subscribe, pop onto Hammerchat. Good night.